Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Remember when Brian Stelter unironically told his CNN audience that them doing their own research was somehow problematic?
Four little words that are hurting America's. That phrase, do your own research, it's popping up a lot in conversations. But this go it alone approach, doing your own research, it seems so innocent, but it can have serious consequences.
Somehow doing your own research is a bad thing. And of course, just yesterday we covered that Russell Brand MSNBC viral clip from Bill Maher's show Real Time with Bill Maher, where that MSNBC hack suffered a meltdown at the accusation that MSNBC is fake news like the rest of the mainstream media outlets. And in that encounter with Russell Brand, he asked this question.
The moment that you give me a specific example, an actual example.
Okay, I'll give you one.
Wait, just wait. Just
we need a specific example.
How about a specific? Let me tell you what the specific I'd like to hear of. I'd like to hear a specific example, a provable-specific example of an MSNBC correspondent or anchor being on television saying something they knew was false, and we're saying behind the scenes to people, I'm about to go out, and we know that.
You've
or something equivalent,
example.
But I will go out on television and say the opposite.
And he posed that question in a very specific manner purposely. Give me one example of us lying about something, yet behind the scenes knowing that what we were promoting was fake. Of course, that makes it a whole lot harder to prove, and he knows that, and that's why it was purposeful. Well, we may be dishonest sometimes, we may get stories wrong, but it's not like we know that we're deceiving the American people. You can't prove that we know otherwise behind the scenes. Give me a frickin' break. These outlets know exactly what they're doing, and in many cases, they lie by omission, or they lie by anonymous source, anonymous reports, by promoting theories and propaganda without evidence. And here's a great example of the mainstream media once again getting caught, getting exposed for the dishonest clowns that they are. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, the first clip in this video comes from Memology 101, a great edit. By the way, make sure that you guys are subscribed to Memology 101, but take a look at this clip that he released yesterday morning. Oh, well, would you look at that? Give me one example of the mainstream media purposely misleading the public. I mean, there's countless examples, but let's just go with the most recent one. How about the Nord Stream gas pipeline explosion? As you see from Memology's edit, multiple mainstream news outlets promoting the narrative that the pipeline was sabotaged by Russia. It was Russia who did it, spreading absolute ridiculous propaganda. And what's funny is that the collective Western mainstream media did the exact same thing when an explosive projectile landed in Poland and took the lives of 2 innocent civilians. They claimed that it was a Russian missile and that it was an escalation, a war provocation from Russia's side, attacking a neighboring country. Turns out that it was a Ukrainian projectile, and of course, the corrections came in real slow or non-existent at all. But now, once again, after the mainstream media told you, don't do your own research, only listen to leftist outlets, not Fox News, because those are the bad guys, we tell you the truth. When have we ever lied to you? They told you that Russia attacked its own pipeline, and then womp womp womp, a couple months later, intelligence suggests that pro-Ukrainian group sabotaged pipelines. US officials are now saying. New intelligence reviewed by United States officials suggests that a pro-Ukrainian group carried out the attack on the Nord Stream pipelines last year, a step towards determining responsibility for an act of sabotage that has confounded investigators on both sides of the Atlantic for months. US officials say that they have no evidence that President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine or his top lieutenants were involved in the operation, or that the perpetrators were acting at the direction of any Ukrainian government officials. The brazen attack on the natural gas pipelines, which link Russia to Western Europe, fueled public speculation about who was to blame, from Moscow to Kyiv and London to Washington. Yeah, so much public speculation. And then, of course, the media reporting, claiming that it was the evil man in Russia, Vladimir Putin. It has remained one of the most consequential, unsolved mysteries of Russia's year-old war war in Ukraine. Ukraine and its allies have been seen by some officials as having the most logical potential motive to attack the pipelines. They have opposed the project for years, calling it a national security threat because it would allow Russia to sell gas to Europe more easily. Ukrainian government and military intelligence officials say that they had no role in the attack and do not know who carried it out. After this article was published, Mikhailo Podolyak, a senior advisor to Mr. Zelensky, posted on Twitter that Ukraine has nothing to do with the Baltic Sea mishap. He called it a mishap. Yes, I'm sure that it was just a mishap, a whoopsie-doo, a mistake. You know, just the good old coincidence of an explosion happening deep below at the seabed, exactly where a pipeline happens to be. He added that he had no information about pro-Ukrainian sabotage groups. U.S. officials said there was much that they did not know about the perpetrators and their affiliations. The review of newly collected intelligence suggests that they were opponents of President Vladimir V. Putin of Russia, but does not specify the members of the group or who directed or paid for the operation, and that's the question right over there. Oh, it must just be random rogue actors acting against Vladimir Putin. Really? You know how difficult it is to pull off something like this? The question is, who's funding it? Exactly, who is funding it? The mainstream media said don't do your own research and immediately blamed Vladimir Putin. Clearly that makes absolutely no sense. Why would Vladimir Putin, as he's fighting a war on his border, as Russia is being sanctioned by the Western world, mainly sanctions on Russian energy exports, why would Vladimir Putin shoot himself in the foot and order his own pipeline be sabotaged? It never made sense from the start. Clearly, some government or globalist entity, or maybe even China, I mean, who really knows, funded this operation. It had to have been a significant player, because it was a significant act of sabotage aimed at demonizing Russia and escalating the conflict. And the mainstream media players all jumped on board, all pointing the finger at Vladimir Putin with absolutely no evidence whatsoever. And then they have the audacity to turn around and say, well, you should always trust us and you should never do your own research. Give me a frickin' break. And they always play these ridiculous games like that clown from MSNBC debating Russell Brand. Well, give us an example of when we lied to the public on air, but actually we're saying something different behind the scenes. That second element that he added on is the plausible deniability clause in a way. Brian Stelter has done the exact same thing in the past, and it shows you the dishonest tactics of these leftist hacks. We all know these infamous moments.
It's a story that many intelligence experts say has all the hallmarks of a foreign interference campaign.
It looks like it's tied to Vladimir Putin in Moscow.
This is a Russian intelligence disinformation campaign.
Foreign intelligence operation.
Foreign intelligence operation.
Russian intelligence.
Rudy Giuliani was not fed passively Russian disinformation. He ordered it off the menu.
This is a classic example of the right-wing media machine.
And he's in the midst of a scandal.
He's not.
And he's taking... Of course he is,
no.
Leslie.
We should note Hunter Biden isn't running for president. That argument has been debunked.
There is no evidence that Joe Biden did anything wrong.
For all we know, these emails are made up.
It just lacks credibility.
The element of plausible deniability, Brian Stelter on multiple occasions has claimed, well, we never outright said that it was Russian disinformation. No, you just strongly implied it, and every single mainstream media outlet parroted the exact same talking point, just like the Nord Stream attack, claiming that, well, based on information that we have, or top intelligence officials are telling us that Vladimir Putin shot himself in the foot. Metaphorically, of course. You see how it's always the same reoccurring themes here. The exact same propaganda tactics used over and over again. Well, we didn't directly say it, we just strongly implied it. Well, we didn't really lie, we didn't knowingly lie, we just might have made a couple whoopsies. Give me a freaking break. It's yet again another leftist narrative, another globalist leftist narrative that blows up in their face. Pun not intended. I mean, for Pete's sakes. Probably from their perspective, how they're thinking. If we could convince the American people, or at least a significant chunk of the global audience, that Vladimir Putin, during a time of war and facing serious global sanctions, if we could convince the average media consumer that Vladimir Putin sabotaged his own pipeline, well then we could convince the global populace of literally anything. It's a freaking MK Ultra propaganda brainwash campaign is what it really is. Brian Stelter laid out the mission statement as clear as day. It's a danger if you think for yourself. Don't question anything and just continue to consume whatever is the most recent mainstream talking point. And some people get offended or claim I'm being hyperbolic when I say the media is one of the deepest forces of evil in modern society. It's not hyperbole, I'm not being facetious, I'm being literal, and I think I'm being quite accurate. Always think for yourselves, and I can't believe I have to say this, never rely on people like Brian Stelter if you want to get to the truth. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.